One, I'd like to welcome you to the January 12th, 2023 Board of Public Works and Safety meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Long.
Here.
Ms. Whitman. Ms. Greenwell.
Here.
Are there any conflict of interest statements?
No.
None. Number 4, approval of the minutes of the meeting of January 5th, 2023. Make a recommendation to defer them.
Okay. I'd like to make a recommendation to defer the minutes from the previous meeting.
And I concur. Number 5, bid openings. We don't have any. Number 6, matters from other department heads or their representatives. Mr. Button, good morning.
Yeah, in my haste, I did not bring the paperwork. I do believe I left a copy with the law department, so I apologize. Yeah, Advanced Engineering Services is requesting to do some borings on Nevada Court. I think it's like the 6400 block. It's not intrusive. They could be there as early as today. We're asking for your approval. They're doing some corings of the street and boring because we have to make an improvement to that roadway.
Right.
They'll have a man there making sure that traffic doesn't cause a problem. But this is the cul-de-sac, so they should easily be able to work around it.
Sure.
But if you could give your approval of AES's request to perform work in the right-of-way.
I recommend that we accept Mr. Button's request for approval for AES's work on Nevada.
Thank you.
And I concur. Anything else, Dean? You good?
No, sir. Thank
Okay.
you. I appreciate it.
Number 7, correspondence. Letter A, correspondence received from William Short, Chief of Police, requesting the promotions of the following officers to first-class patrolmen and pay adjustments effective January 2nd, 2023. Enrique Cook, Matthew Zimbala, Crystal Taylor, Lindsay Fritz, Charlie Mixon, and Andrew Webb. Sergeant Eusebio Gonzalez was transferred from the Narcotics Division to the Patrol Division effective January 11th, 2023, and the resignation of Officer Niven effective January 8th, 2023, submitted for approval.
I recommend that we accept the correspondence from Chief William Short.
And I concur. Letter B, correspondence received from Dean Button, City Engineer, requesting the approval and electronic signatures of the NDOT LPA agreement, Design and Construction Engineering Contract, 177th Street, 179th Street, Carlson Drive, Decline Avenue, submitted for approval.
This is a community crossings project, which is a 50-50 match between the State of Indiana Department of Transportation, City of Hammond. We were awarded $1 million. This project's been in design. We need to have a contract with a construction contractor in hand by April 6th. This is authorizing the President of the Board of Public Works to electronically sign the LPA agreement, and so we'd ask for your approval.
Okay, I recommend the approval for the community crossing project for the electronic signatures.
And I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you. Correspondence C, correspondence received from Dean Button requesting the approval of the agreement with Alexander Gorlin Architects of New York for the planning and design of the downtown Hammond commuter station at Russell Street along the NICD alignment in the amount of $50,000 submitted for approval.
So we, as this board and the community knows, we've been working with Jeff Speck on our downtown Hammond master plan. And we asked Mr. Speck if we could work towards the design of the new station that's intended to be placed at Russell Street. And so Mr. Speck approached the city with a teaming partner, Mr. Alexander Gorlin and Associates, to help with the initial design, really the data gathering and conceptual part of this project. And so Mr. Gorlin's company is the lead, and Mr. Speck is a subcontractor to him to help us get through that early stages of this. So this is a budgetary price to get us to a point where we can get an expected design and an expected cost, right? So this is the first phase, not to exceed. The City of Hammond received a READY grant from the state of Indiana. I don't know what the acronym stands for. It is it's an economic development grant, but the costs of the grant are front loaded right? We're going to try to use as much of the grant early on as possible. This is really the first part of that project. So there's no green sheet, no pink sheet involved. There hasn't been a procedure necessarily established for those sorts of approvals, but this is in our plan with the Northwest Indiana Forum, who's sort of the organizing entity of all the ready grants in Northwest Indiana. And so that's how this is being funded. I'd ask for your approval of the agreement.
Hey, I recommend the approval of the planning and the design agreement with Alexander Gorlin Architects of New York.
And I concur.
Thank you.
Letter D, correspondence received from Dean Button requesting the approval of the agreement milestone contractors for the reconstruction of J.F. Mahoney Drive from 174th Street to Parrish Avenue in the amount of $1,714,032.69, submitted for approval.
Thank you. So the board may not recall, this project was bid in the summer of '22. The contractors agreed to essentially hold their price even up till now. In light of all the economic changes and pluses and minuses, they're working with us to move forward on this project. $1.7 million of this has been funded through the council set aside from the American Rescue Plan phases 1 and 2.0. So the 1.7 from there. This board might recall that the Capital Improvements Board had submitted a funding allocation for the balance, right? The $14,032.69. That came through here earlier. So we're ready to move forward and execute the agreement. We've got everything we need in hand, and I would ask for your approval of this agreement, please.
Hey, I'd like to recommend the approval of the agreement with Milestone Contractors for the reconstruction of J.F. Mahoney Drive.
And I will concur.
Thank you.
Correspondence E, correspondence received from F.H. Passion Ragnar Benson requesting the permanent street closure of Russell Street per the NICD Westlake Corridor project design and City of Hammond's approval to accommodate the project design.
We all knew this was coming at some point. Russell Street at the Erie-Lackawanna Trail is going to be permanently closed. The Westlake leaves grade at just south of Douglas Street, so right at Douglas Street it starts to incline, and it can't be high enough at Russell to get traffic underneath, and we knew that. But we have a tunnel, pedestrian tunnel, designed to be able to cross there, and that's the place where the station's going to go. So we knew this was coming. We didn't know if our Homan Avenue project was going to get there first or the NICD project was going to get there first, and they're ready to start working on the wall that constructs the slope for the railroad.
Gotcha.
So we knew this was coming. I've reached out to the GSA, the federal courthouse, and communicated with Rich Falzone. So he's aware. He's made notification to the federal judges and the staff at the federal courthouse to make them aware, because they are at most affected, right? They come out from the north, get to Russell, and are forced to turn right. Now they'll be forced to turn left towards Homan Avenue.
Okay. Hey, guys. Rich, he can hear you back there. You can hear you on the mic. Okay.
So this is the permanent closure. We set this up for January 23rd, Monday, January 23rd, to start the closure. So I think we have most everything in place. There should be some advanced warning messages to the motoring public that Russell Street will be two-way in front of the county courthouse. And so we'd ask for your approval of this action.
So I see that it'll affect traffic, but will it affect the everyday operations of the federal building or no?
No.
Okay.
No, so most of the cars to the federal courthouse come in from Douglas, although some employees come in from Russell Street.
Right.
Right, they're eastbound into the parking lot. When they leave, they will all, those people that enter from Douglas to the parking lot or from Russell Street will now all exit westbound on Russell. They'll no longer to be able to go eastbound on Russell.
Gotcha.
And we knew that was coming.
Okay.
So there's no effect there. Dignitaries in the federal courthouse, they come in and out of Russell. So that's no change there, really.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yep.
I'd like to recommend the request for the permanent closing of Russell Street beginning January 23rd, 2023, per NICD.
And I will concur.
Thank you.
Thank you. Letter F, correspondence received from 3rd District Councilman Barry Tyler requesting $30,000 of gaming funds be allocated for tree removal in the 3rd District. Let me see if it has been signed by the mayor and the city controller.
I'd like to recommend that we accept Councilman Tyler's request for $30,000 of gaming funds for tree removal.
And I will concur. Letter G, correspondence received from Smith Sursick confirming to continue contracting with their firm for legal services as needed. We're good, yeah.
I'd like to recommend that we accept the correspondence from Smith Sursick confirming the continuance of their contract.
And I will concur. Letter H, correspondence received requesting rental registration hearing. Recommend that date. Yeah, recommend that date, yeah. No, just recommend that we set.
Okay, I recommend that we set the inspection.
Rental registration hearing.
Rental registration hearing for January 26th.
Perfect. And I concur. Number 8, matters from board heads, board members. Do you have anything? Yeah, sorry. Number 9, new business. Letter A, certificate of self-insurance received from Megan Flores, City Controller, requesting signature. I assume there's no issue with that? Okay, good. Yeah, just, approve it.
I recommend that we accept the certificate of insurance received from our city controller, Megan Flores.
And I concur. Letter B, agreement with the Howard E. Nyhart Company Incorporated, submitted by Megan Flores for approval.
I request the approval submitted by our city controller, Megan Flores, with the agreement for a Howard E. Nyhart Company.
And I concur. Letter C, right-of-way permits received from engineering, submitted for approval.
Mr. Gordish is covering our office now, so I apologize for taking his thunder. You have in front of you 5 right-of-way requests. One's with Comcast, and then there are 4 NIPSCO.
Mm-hmm.
These are those Viper poles. They're not the substation extraordinarily tall poles. They're the poles like you see at 150th and Calumet, 149th and Columbia, that they're doing pole replacement so that they can be able to better communicate and understand what's happening in their system during the event of a storm. So we ask for your approval.
Gotcha.
I recommend the approval of the right-of-way permits as submitted by engineering.
And I concur.
Thank you.
Letter D, disposal authorizations submitted by the Hammond Police Department for approval. Just, yeah. Good.
I recommend that we accept the disposal authorization submitted by the Hammond Police Department.
And I will concur. Number 10, old business. Letter A, status, Jimenez Towing.
Morning, folks.
Good morning.
The last time we were here, we had presented the fact that my client had acquired a new premises that he hoped to transfer the business to in lieu of the car wash that we'd been plodding along with.
Right.
Since that time, well, at the last meeting, Brian had indicated that the zoning, at least for that new lot, looked appropriate. And I've shared some materials with Brian concerning getting into the nitty-gritty about the site and the appropriateness of, there's a number of garage bay units at this site. There's multiple businesses operating there. Right now, what we're working on is confirming the the fact that each of these garage bays has its own independent address that could be assigned a business license.
Gotcha, yeah.
I've put in a request with the city for public information so that we can ascertain the licensees that are operating there now, what the status of their license is, again, to confirm that this will be possible with the business license. The plan would be, my client is already in possession of one of the units. He's using it as storage presently. There's another unit with 2 garage bays that's non-contiguous to the one that he already possesses that he would like to use as the shop. Right now, that has another tenant in it whose lease has expired. That tenant, we're working on getting them out and relocating them. Have you had any updates as far as?
Well, I spoke to him, but he actually, I told him that I spoke to him since last month, letting him know that we were gonna need, the space available, the one that he's in, due to his lease being up. He did say that he was gonna need,
Gotcha.
he was gonna need some time in order to get his stuff out. But he previously said maybe about like 3 months. And I told him I don't.
Did you say 30 or 3?
3 months.
3 months, okay.
Yeah. So I told him, I honestly don't know how much time I could give you, but concurring to this meeting, I would kind of be able to give him a touch by basis of, how long he would
If
practically have.
we have to put a boot, to
Right.
his behind, we'll certainly do that. Right now, while we're working with this tenant, we've also reached out to Bruce Kujawa, the architect, concerning obtaining new, more proper plans, something a little bit more formal than the materials that I've provided already to Brian. So we're working on all of those issues kind of concurrently right now.
Do you have an expectation of when those issues might be resolved?
I think the biggest questions probably with this tenant, assuming that Brian is content with the plans that we produce, I think the last time Bruce was able to put something together within, he can normally turn around plans in a month or so, I think. We'll get those over to Brian. There's some questions about, because there are multiple businesses operating from these bays, things like parking, who's going to be where, and so I don't have an exact ETA. It's really going to depend on getting the plans and getting the tenant out, which we'll expedite as much as we can, as much as possible, and within the city's parameters.
Well, I think that's what we indicated last time. We just want to see this moving forward consistently, and so whatever you can do to get that tenant out any faster than 3 months would be appreciated, of course. So do we need to set this for status again? Do we need to give them that 3-month time frame that they're thinking that tenant will take to move out?
The information that's reported here is that the lease is expired. So as far as the city's concerned, they could act immediately to put him out, but I'm not going to try to interfere with that process. I don't know that 3 months is reasonable.
I'd like to move faster than that as well. The only question I think I've got for the tenant is, we did not make out these leases, and the original lease with this tenant, I think, was from 2017. That specified that it was an annual lease. The most recent amendment had some language on it about an option to renew. However, we've already provided the tenant with notice that we don't intend to do that. So really my next step was going to be with respect to this tenant, sending them a 30-day letter. And if that leads to something contested, I guess we'll find out. But my position would be if they're on a month-to-month and they get 30 days, they ought to be out.
I think that we should probably status this for the end of February then.
Okay, so the last Thursday in February is the 23rd?
I believe
Yeah, it is, it is. Is that the one you're talking about then? I mean, we should at least have some idea if there's some movement by then, I would hope.
I would think by that date, yeah, I would certainly hope to have the information about, you know, the business license, probably the plans and some feedback from Brian on those. And with respect to the tenant, if he's, you know, if he's not out by then, I think we'll have a very firm idea of, you know, we'll be able to tell you what's going on there if there's an eviction hearing scheduled, something like that.
Okay, so does that date work for you then?
February
23rd?
23rd? Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Status for that day, yeah.
I recommend that we move the status for Jimenez Auto to February 23rd of 2023.
And I concur.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Letter B, status for 504-177.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
I talked with the building inspector and everything for 504-177. The contractor that was doing the work never called for any inspections. Now the owner has been trying to contact the building department about doing a final. So they're still trying to review what work's been done and what inspections to be needed, requesting a 30-day continuance on this one.
So status for 30 days?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll go.
2/16?
We'll just go to that. Yeah, we'll do February 16th.
I recommend that we move the status for 504-177 to February 16th of 2023.
And I will concur. Letter C, status for 3407 Kenwood.
I've got a couple updated pictures, and those were taken by Inspector Coles this past week. According to the building inspectors, there has not been any inspections on the property since August of '22. They're not sure if they're having last time he was in there, it was supposed to be ready for drywall. They did the rough and everything. They don't know if they're having supply issue problems or what, but we haven't heard anything since August. So,
What's your recommendation for this one then? If they're not responding, do we set another status?
Are we asking them for a response, or are we just internally setting this for a status?
probably, yeah, just internally setting first.
Should they be notified to appear here at next status? And if they don't show up then we can,
Yeah, then we can go from there.
proceed forward.
Yes. The owner is Lake County Liens.
Is that February 16th date enough time to get a hold of them and have them here?
Should be to notify them to show up.
Status February 16th.
I recommend we set the status for 3407 Kenwood for February 16th of 2023.
And that the owners should be ordered to appear and make a status report.
Okay, and that the owners appear to give a status report on the property.
And I will concur. Letter D, 4905 Linden.
Mr. Taylor was here this morning, but he had a death in the family. He had to attend to a funeral this morning, so he spoke with me. They were out there this past week working on it. They finally got the siding up on the outside of the property all the way around. He's waiting now for his plumber and his electrical and mechanical contractors to finish up their work so they can call for their inspections. He's also going to be pulling a new permit for the rest of the work that needs to be done and getting his license renewed for this year. So I agreed to continue it for status till 2/16/23.
I recommend that we move the status for 4905 Linden to February 16th of 2023.
And I concur. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 11, rental registration hearings, 7518 Grand Avenue.
Board, if we can set both of these rental registrations over till next week. Commissioner Farrell didn't give me the paperwork for it, so I have no knowledge of the status of these cases.
Do we do them one at a time, Linda? Or do we do them both at the same time? Just one, which one at a time?
Make a motion on each of them.
Each of them? Okay. Gotcha, that's okay. January 19th for status individually.
I recommend the following rental registration hearings for status for February 19th of 2023, 7518 Grand.
Stop, yeah. And I concur. January 19th next week. No, January 19th, yeah, January 19th.
And I also like to make a recommendation to move 1433 173rd for status for February 19th of 2023.
January 19th,
Did I say February?
yeah, yeah.
January 19th of 2023.
Is there an issue before I concur back there? I want to know if there's an issue before I concur with the movement.
I'm trying to make sure she's going to be available next week.
Okay,
She's
got,
here.
and I'm going to wait then.
Can you be here next week at 9 o'clock? Okay.
No, I
Yeah, so come back next week, Thursday, 9 o'clock. We'll be here then. Okay? All right. She can make
Good?
it. Yes.
Okay, then I will concur with moving them to next week, January 19th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 12, the meeting's open to the public. Anybody like to speak? Mr. Poland, how are you?
Fine, how are you doing?
Good, good.
Sorry I didn't get this to the secretary in time to put it on the agenda.
No problem.
We have a utility easement for property, if you're familiar with the Gene Shepherd Center and Parish Avenue.
Yes.
There's a vacant piece of land to the east of Parish.
Yeah.
It's owned by the Redevelopment Commission, and the city engineer has talked about a project that would require a utility easement to put a sewer line through that property. So this document was approved by the Redevelopment Commission, and I just got it back with their signature on it. And it has a place for the Board of Works to sign, as well as the sanitary district. So I just have it here for if you guys would accept it and sign it.
So we need to approve it first and then sign? Okay. Yeah, we're going to.
Technically, it's acknowledging and accepting, right? You have the document with you.
Yeah.
You're not really approving, you're just acknowledging, it's the acknowledgement and acceptance of the easement.
Of the easement? Okay.
Yeah, so there's no approval, but they need your signature. So, thanks, Mr. Poland, for bringing this forward. The board's aware this is a U.S. Army Corps of Engineers project. This is part of clearing the real estate hoop for the project, or what they call it, right of entry in federal government terms. And so it's a form that we need them to be okay with.
Okay.
That's what that's for.
So we're just acknowledging and accepting the agreement for the utility easement, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Make a recommendation that we acknowledge and accept the agreement for the utilities
Easement.
easement.
And I will concur. Would anybody else in the public like to speak? Then I will entertain a recommendation to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, I had to brush up on this, so I'm not a charlatan sitting
I
here.
know.
So moved.
I concur. Thank you, everyone.